Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about a time of year most gardeners overlook when it comes to blueberries, late November. Even though the garden looks quiet, what you do right now has a surprisingly big impact on how your blueberry plants will perform next season. By the end of fall, your bushes have finished storing energy, dropped most of their leaves, and are officially entering full dormancy. That dormancy is not just a rest period. It's actually a critical phase that determines how well the plant will form flower buds, set fruit, and bounce back from winter stress. And because many blueberry varieties grown across the U.S. need anywhere from 400 to 1,000 chill hours, allowing them to settle into the cold properly is essential. In today's video, we'll walk step by step through what you should do right now so your plants are protected through winter and ready for a strong burst of growth in spring. We'll go over how to evaluate your plant's health, how to winterize container-grown blueberries, how to refresh soil surfaces, and what preparations will set you up for an amazing crop next year. Whether you're gardening in a backyard, a small suburban patio, or a full greenhouse setup, these late November tasks will help you avoid common winter mistakes and give your blueberries the best possible start. Let's get into it. Now that we've talked about why late November matters, let's move into what's happening inside your blueberry plants at this exact time of year. Whether you grow northern highbush, southern highbush, or rabbit eye blueberries, all varieties follow a similar rhythm. They push new growth in spring, develop fruit through summer, harden off in early fall, and then slide into a deep restorative dormancy once temperatures consistently drop. By late November, most plants have either dropped their leaves or are finishing the process. This is completely normal and not a sign of stress. In fact, dormancy is a programmed shutdown that protects the plant from cold damage. Inside each cane, energy is being conserved, buds are being insulated, and the plant is preparing for the chilling period it needs in order to flower properly in the spring. This is also the perfect moment for a full structural inspection. You're not going to do heavy pruning right now. That comes later in late winter when the worst freeze risk has passed. But November is when you should walk around your plants, look closely at the canes, and identify anything that needs attention later. Start by checking for dead wood. Dead canes are usually brittle, dull, and may snap easily when bent. They often appear grayish rather than vibrant red or green. You don't need to remove them right now, but tagging them with twine or a small colored tie will save you time when pruning season arrives. Next, look for damaged or diseased branches. Those with discoloration, blackened areas, or suspicious lesions. Again, you're not cutting yet, but you're preparing your winter pruning strategy. You should also evaluate your plant's overall shape. Are the canes too crowded in the center? Are their branches rubbing against each other? Do you have enough young canes coming up from the base? Blueberries perform best when they have an open, vase-like structure that allows sunlight and air to reach the middle of the plant. Doing this evaluation in late November, right in the heart of dormancy, gives you the cleanest view of the plant's architecture. With the leaves gone, it's much easier to understand which branches are productive and which ones should be removed once pruning season arrives. If you're growing in containers, this step is even more important. Potted blueberries can become cramped quickly, and overcrowded canes restrict airflow, which increases the risk of disease during spring growth. So think of this phase as the planning stage. A quiet moment to study your plant, understand its needs, and set yourself up for smarter pruning in a few months.
Now let's move into one of the most impactful late November tasks you can do for your blueberry plants: protecting and improving their soil environment. Even though the top of the plant is dormant right now, the roots are still very much alive. They continue to breathe, exchange nutrients, and shift into a slow-energy preservation mode. That means the condition of the soil surrounding them directly influences how well they'll overwinter and how strongly they'll wake up in the spring. Blueberries are unique because they thrive in acidic, loose, and well-draining soil, conditions that can become compromised during late fall and winter. Freezing and thawing cycles compact the soil. Heavy rains wash nutrients down through the container, and unprotected roots can experience temperature stress. Thankfully, a few simple steps taken in November can prevent most of these issues. Let's start with soil acidity. Blueberries are happiest at a pH of 4.5 to 5.5, which is more acidic than most vegetable crops and even many fruit shrubs. If you haven't checked your soil's pH in the last 12 months, now is the time. A simple home test kit or digital meter works perfectly. You don't necessarily need to adjust the pH today. Those amendments are better added in early spring, but knowing the current level helps you plan upcoming work. Next, examine the top few inches of your soil. Late fall is the season when fallen leaves, old mulch, and compacted organic matter pile up. Gently rake away debris and look for signs that the surface has hardened or crusted over. If water pools before absorbing, or if the soil looks dense or cracked, that's a signal that your plant needs fresh mulch and a little aeration at the surface. This brings us to mulching, one of the most important steps for winter root protection. A 2 to 3 inch layer of pine bark fines, shredded pine needles, or chopped leaves creates a natural insulation blanket that stabilizes root temperature and preserves soil moisture. Pine-based mulches are perfect for blueberries because they slowly help maintain acidity as they break down. Avoid heavy wet mulches like grass clippings. They can trap too much moisture and promote fungal growth. For gardeners in colder regions, think USDA zones 4 through 6, mulching becomes even more crucial. Container-grown blueberries are especially vulnerable because the roots sit above ground and can freeze more quickly. By applying mulch in late November, you create a natural buffer that reduces freeze damage and prevents roots from heaving upward during temperature swings. If you're growing your blueberries in pots, gently loosen the top inch of soil before applying mulch. This allows air to circulate and helps spring water penetrate more easily. Just be careful not to disturb the shallow feeder roots near the surface. Finally, before you step away for the season, check the plant's moisture level. Dormant plants need far less water, but the soil should never be bone dry. Water lightly if necessary, but avoid soaking the container. Excess water in winter leads to root rot. The goal is simply to keep the soil evenly moist, like a wrung-out sponge. By taking these actions now, testing, cleaning, lightly aerating, and mulching, you're building a stable environment that protects the roots, preserves acidity, and prepares the plant for a strong, healthy start in spring. Now that we've covered soil protection, let's talk about something that's absolutely essential for anyone growing blueberries in containers: where and how to store your potted plants during winter. Blueberries planted in the ground have the benefit of natural insulation from surrounding soil, but container plants are much more exposed. Their root systems sit above ground level, and that means temperature swings, especially in late fall and early winter, can stress or even damage the roots if you don't take a few precautions.
The first thing to understand is that blueberries actually need cold weather. Most varieties require anywhere from 300 to 1,000 chill hours, depending on the cultivar. These chill hours are the number of hours between 32 degrees Fahrenheit and 45 degrees Fahrenheit that the plant experiences during dormancy. Without enough chill hours, blueberries may leaf out late or produce fewer blossoms. So the goal here isn't to keep the plant warm, it's to keep it cold in a safe, consistent way. This is why heated spaces, heated greenhouses, or indoor rooms with active temperature control are not good places for your containers. Instead, you want a location where the temperature stays cold but doesn't swing dramatically below zero. Ideal storage temperatures range between 28 degrees Fahrenheit and 45 degrees Fahrenheit. Below 20 degrees Fahrenheit, the roots can suffer damage, and repeated freeze-thaw cycles can cause the potting mix to heave, which stresses the root structure. Let's talk about storage options. One of the simplest setups is to use an unheated garage, shed, or barn. As long as the structure is unheated and not fully insulated, it usually provides a stable, cold environment. Place the containers directly on the ground rather than on shelves. This helps moderate temperature through the concrete or packed dirt floor. Space pots so that the air can circulate, but keep them close enough that they help insulate each other. If you don't have an indoor outbuilding, a cold greenhouse works very well. Just make sure it's truly unheated. Even small space heaters can disrupt chill accumulation. Greenhouses tend to buffer extreme cold while still maintaining the chill range blueberries need. Position pots together along the north wall or in a sheltered corner to minimize sun exposure. Light isn't necessary during dormancy. For gardeners who don't have a shed or greenhouse, you can still store your potted blueberries outdoors. Choose the most protected area you have. Against the north or east wall of your house is ideal, because these areas stay colder and are shielded from prevailing winds. Group the containers close together and wrap them with natural materials like burlap, straw, or even insulated frost blankets. Avoid plastic, which traps moisture and can create mold problems. No matter where you store your containers, remember that the plants still need a very small amount of water. Dormant blueberries don't dry out quickly, but they also shouldn't be left bone dry for months. Check them every 3 to 4 weeks. If the soil feels dry several inches down, water lightly, just enough to moisten the soil, not enough to saturate it. Finally, resist the temptation to move the plants too early in spring. Blueberries can begin to leaf out prematurely if they warm up before outdoor temperatures are consistent. Keep them in storage until outside temperatures stabilize above freezing for several days. This prevents early bud break, which can be damaged by late frosts. Now let's shift to something that will make an enormous difference in your blueberry plant's performance next spring: preparing your containers for next season. Even though it's late November and the plant is fully dormant, this is the best time to assess the condition of your containers and soil, and to plan ahead for the early spring refresh that blueberries absolutely thrive on. One of the unique challenges with growing blueberries in containers is that the soil gradually becomes exhausted. Over time, acidity decreases, drainage slows, and organic matter breaks down into finer particles that hold more water than blueberries prefer. If your plant has been in the same pot for 2 or 3 years, chances are the upper layer of soil is compacted or depleted, and that will impact growth next spring if you don't prepare for a refresh. The good news is that late fall is a great moment to evaluate the potting mix. With the leaves off and growth stopped, you can easily see whether the plant has become root-bound, whether the soil has sunk several inches, or whether pests or fungal patches are present on the surface. You don't need to repot now. In fact, repotting during deep dormancy is not recommended because the roots are vulnerable. What you're doing today is creating a plan and performing light maintenance steps that will make your spring work easier. Start by brushing away the loose top layer of old mulch. Look at the soil underneath. If it's dry, crusted, or very dense, this is a sign that your plant will benefit from a top dress or partial soil replacement in spring. Blueberries love airy blends with pine bark fines, peat moss, and perlite. These materials keep the soil acidic and prevent it from becoming waterlogged. If your container has settled significantly, sometimes the soil can sink 2 or 3 inches over a season. This is your signal that nutrients and organic matter have broken down. In spring, you'll want to remove the top 2 to 4 inches and replace them with a fresh acidic mix. For very old containers, especially those holding mature bushes, consider repotting into a slightly larger pot. Moving from a 10-gallon to a 15-gallon container can dramatically improve production. Now let's talk about fertilizer timing, because this is where a lot of gardeners go wrong. Blueberries should not be fertilized in late November. During dormancy, the plant cannot use nitrogen, and applying fertilizer right now can lead to nutrient burn or early bud swelling, both of which you want to avoid. Instead, fertilizing belongs firmly in early spring, right when the plant shows the first signs of bud break. At that stage, slow-release fertilizers designed for acid-loving plants, like hollytone or ammonium sulfate, are ideal. This is also the moment to inspect your pots themselves. Check for cracks caused by freeze-thaw cycles, especially if you're using ceramic containers. Plastic or resin containers tend to handle winter better, but all pots should have good drainage holes. If you notice water pooling inside the saucer or the bottom of the pot, it's time to drill additional holes or elevate the container on pot feet to improve airflow. Lastly, think about labeling and planning. Use weatherproof tags to record the variety, planting date, and any notes about the plant's condition this fall. These details will help you track performance and remember which containers need the most attention in spring. All these small steps taken in late November, observing soil health, checking pot condition, planning the next repot, and organizing your supplies, turn into major gains when warm weather returns. The better prepared you are now, the faster your blueberries will rebound when the growing season begins.
As we wrap up today's video, let's go over a few final reminders that will help your blueberries get through winter safely and come back stronger in spring. These last details might seem small, but they often make the biggest difference between plants that merely survive and plants that absolutely thrive. First, remember that dormant blueberries still need minimal moisture. Too many gardeners either forget to water entirely or, on the other extreme, keep the soil soggy. Aim for light, occasional watering, just enough to keep the potting mix from drying out completely. Next, avoid one of the most common mistakes: pruning too early. Even if you've already identified deadwood or crowded canes, hold off until late winter. Pruning during warm spells in December or January can trigger early bud swelling, and those tender buds are extremely vulnerable to cold snaps. If your plants are stored outdoors, don't forget to keep them protected from harsh wind and sudden temperature swings. And if you're tracking chill hours, especially important for southern high bush varieties,
keep a simple notebook or use a gardening app. It's a helpful way to understand your plant's flowering patterns and improve your care routine next season. Finally, stay patient. Blueberries reward consistency over time. By taking these careful late November steps, inspecting, mulching, storing, and planning, you're setting the stage for healthier canes, more blossoms, and better fruit production when warm weather returns. Thanks so much for watching. If you found these tips helpful, feel free to like the video, subscribe, and leave a comment about how your blueberries are doing this fall. I'll see you in the next one, and as always, happy gardening.